Welcome to this week's episode of the How To's. Now for our host, Dr. Dimitri Bradley.
Hey, what's good, family? This is Pastor Bradley here at City Church in Richmond, Virginia. And this is the How To broadcast, and we're excited to be here with you on today. I've got a good friend of mine hanging out with us, Pastor Clarence Smith, all the way from New Jersey.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me,
sir. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Man, we got a pretty serious topic today that we want to share with the people.
Yes, sir.
Again, the broadcast, the How To's are really designed just to give you some nuggets on how to overcome things. We have teaching lessons on there. That's one thing, but having a sit down, I think, allows us to extrapolate information that can really be a blessing to somebody's life. So today's subject is how to overcome depression. And with all that's going on in the world right now, some of the recent things here on social media, I thought this was a very timely subject for us to get into on today. And so Pastor Smith is our guest. He's going to share some things with us that I really believe will bless your life. So Pastor, let's jump right in, sir.
Let's do it.
All right. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me where you're from, how you grew up. Talk to me a little bit.
Well, I'm from Newark, and Newark is the hood.
Okay.
And so I was raised in poverty.
Okay.
I remember the time where we had beef in a can, and it had beef written on it. And just poor, I had 2 outfits to wear to school.
Wow.
And so there are times where we didn't have food. There are times where I seen the drug dealers come in the house and beat my mother up in front of me.
Wow.
I remember the door where you have a peephole, and you look through this peephole to kind of see what was going on. And I would see my mother and my cousin get high in there, and different guys coming in and out. So it was very, very humbling. It was very depressing. It was just a bad situation, a bad environment for a child. But many people are going through those same things.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's keep it real. Newark is not a joke, man. From what I understand,
absolutely.
New Jersey is pretty serious. It can be a tough area. And sometimes growing up in an environment like that, man, it can affect your outlook on life.
Absolutely.
How you see family, and sometimes how you see everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you got people who live on a block like that, whether it's Newark, whether it's Compton, whether it's Richmond, whether it's Northside, whatever, that never get outside of that world that they live in, and they believe the whole world is like that. How did this frame, how did what you see frame kind of your world and your outlook a little bit, even as a young person?
Well, I thought that I was going to have to go through all my life.
Okay.
I thought that life was full of pain, and it was always going to be like that.
Right.
Because when you're in those type of environments, you don't see your way out.
Okay.
I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't know how I was going to get from where I was to where I wanted to go.
Okay.
And so I think that formed a depression in me, because how do you make it out?
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of cats, way out is street life. And obviously that wasn't the route you chose to take, and it wasn't a route that that God blocked or didn't allow you even go down that road, because a lot of times they see that as a way out. So tell me, what did you do with your time?
Well, my brother, he chose street life.
Okay.
So he got into gangs, and you have a choice on which direction you want to go into. And so my grandmother, thank God for my great-grandmother who raised me, she took me to church. And I think that was my outlet. That was the way that I escaped what I was going through and what I was dealing with, church. So I think that if you have a child, you should always get them involved in ministry somewhere, and I think that's going to be an escape for them.
Well, a couple of things I want to speak to as far as that's concerned. Number one, you never know how people coming in your churches when they come to church and what they left to come to church.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs love.
Yes.
And everybody needs hope that things can be better, and not only hope but some tools.
Yeah.
So tell me this: although your great-grandmother took you to church and got you exposed to the things of God, when did you kind of give your life to the Lord? Can you remember that?
I think I've always gave it to him. I think I don't never remember going up to the church and asking God to, save me and come into my heart.
Right.
I think it was just a prayer. I remember the time where I was home and I was in the bunk bed, and I woke up and there was a dead rat in the bed with me. And I remember looking up to God and making a promise to God. I said, God, if you get me out of this, I'll serve you for the rest of my life.
All right.
I'm a young kid, and I'm just looking up like, God, if you get me out of this, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. And so I just had to really believe God and really trust Him at a young age. That that there was some hope for me.
Praise God.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. Now tell me this. Okay, so let's fast forward just a little bit, kind of get to the next stage. So tell me about this. So you've called on the Lord at some point. You're going to church. When did you move from being just a believer to thinking that maybe this is my call. Maybe I'd like to be in the ministry. Maybe pastor is what I'd like to do. How did you get over there?
My mom died. I remember my grandmother, who had multiple heart attacks. She took me and my little brother, she took our bags to our dad's house and said, look, I can't take care of him any longer because I'm sick.
Right.
And he said, well, I'll take him. So he called my great-grandmother up and he says, I need you to take care of the kids until I change my work schedule. And he never changed it. So my great-grandmother raised us. And a couple of months after that, a year to my mother dying, my grandmother died.
Wow, okay.
And then my grandfather died. And then my great-grandfather died. It was a year span, back to back.
That's a lot of loss.
It was a lot of loss. And I couldn't understand as a kid, God, why so much pain?
Right.
I couldn't understand why I had to go through so much.
Right.
And I remember the time where I would ask my dad, call him, thinking that he would come and pick us up.
Right.
And I would break day in the window waiting for him. And I think that was one of the most darkest points of my life, wanting my dad, graduating from high school, and your dad is not there.
Right.
Becoming a pastor, and you're ordained, and your dad is around the corner, but he doesn't show up. And so it made me want to kill myself.
Right.
I felt like I wasn't loved. I felt like if my mom's not in my life, then why couldn't my dad step up? Right. And here I am raised with my great-grandmother. So I didn't get into football. I didn't get into sports. I missed a lot of my childhood because I was living with almost a 70-year-old lady.
Right, yeah.
And so it was a really, really difficult time. And I contemplated suicide on so many times. I didn't know if I wanted to drink bleach. Right. I didn't know if I wanted to take pills, or I wanted to know if I just jump off a roof. And somehow I just believed that there was something better for me than what I was going through at that moment.
That's so serious, man. To have all that going on, and knowing that there are people who are experiencing loss, and maybe not processing that stuff the same way, like, God, why me?
Right.
And getting to a point where you feel like you're not valued in life.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to make sure we pull out here, and when we're dealing with this is, you never know when somebody needs a hug,
absolutely,
needs a love, or needs encouragement, and what that might mean to somebody else, kind of making it just to another day.
Absolutely.
And encouraging them to get to the next point. So, I think we take a lot of things serious, especially in social media, where people are quick to say some really underhanded stuff, not knowing the emotional state that people are in.
Right.
The scripture makes it clear that we are operated by love as a believer. And I think everybody needs love.
Absolutely.
You just never know where they are, how they're dealing with it. So talk to me a little bit about this. So those are your beginning experiences with some depression and thoughts of anxiety and maybe even suicidal thoughts. Talk to me this. So you feel like you get past this for a second. Does it ever pop back up? Did it ever come back? Was it always there? Did you talk to me? How did you cope?
Well, I overate.
Okay.
I overate. A lot of people do different things. A lot of people do drugs, and they have different forms to relieve themselves. And so I turned to food.
Right.
Because I was in church, and I know I wasn't going to go to a liquor store. I didn't want to be seen in the liquor store.
So you had enough word, and you did not do that.
I had enough word. I'm not going to do crack.
Right.
But I overate. And so I would find comfort in macaroni and cheese, man, and just coming down at night and just ribs and just kind of overdoing it. And I didn't realize that I was running away from pain.
Right.
I was sexually, as a result of all of this, I was also sexually abused and molested.
Wow.
As a kid. And that's why, if parents are watching, you have to really watch who's your kid's friend, because this particular person said he was my friend, and I wasn't a fighter back then, and so he would make me do things, and it was, God, do you care?
Right.
I don't have my mom.
Right.
I don't have my dad.
Right.
You know, I'm being abused. I felt like I was in a hopeless situation.
Wow.
But I had this big picture that one day you're going to touch a lot of people's lives.
Man.
And I held on to the power of that. But through each stage, I was depressed. I would cry. I would just go and just be like, God, you know, why me? But I kept pressing.
Right.
But I was still depressed.
Right.
You know, it wasn't until I really began to get deeper in the Word that I began to come out of that.
Man, amen. Yeah. Amen. Well, I know our time is running short.
Yes.
Man, I want to pick back up on this point, especially something that you mentioned about parents and grandparents, knowing who your children are around.
Yes, sir.
At all times. But man, we just so thankful for your candidness and your openness on this How To broadcast. Man, I pray that what you're hearing is blessing your life. So stay tuned as you hear more from Pastor Smith and Dr. Bradley on this How To broadcast, How to Overcome Depression.
Amen.
Thanks for watching the How To's. Please like and share the video and leave a comment below to tell us what you think. You can also visit us at dimitribradley.com for more things about Pastor Bradley. And please, don't forget to subscribe to City TV.